Welcome to this poetry video about Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. So I want you to look at this image. It perfectly sort of encapsulates what Ozymandias is about, what the poem is about. We can see a traveller in a desert overlooking a broken statue of what appears to be a ruler. So what are the themes of the poem? What do you think it could be about? Just have a quick think. And here is the poem itself. It is a sonnet. We can see it's a sonnet because it has 14 lines. There's 10 syllables per line. There are 5 two-syllable feet broken into iambs, where the stress is on the second syllable each foot. Now, I'm not going to read the sonnet to you here. I would actually really encourage that you watch this video. It's Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad reading the sonnet, and he reads it so much better than I do. So I really encourage all of you to watch this video and listen to the sonnet read here. So we need to begin with a bit of context, as we always do. Let's start with who was Percy Shelley. Well, he was born in 1792 and died in 1822 at the age of 29. He actually drowned when sailing to Italy. He was from a wealthy family. His grandfather and father were both sirs, and his dad was a member of parliament. His dad had actually intended for Percy to join government as well, but Percy's a bit of a renegade, bit of a naughty boy. He was expelled from university from being very critical about the church and speaking out against the church. He married a woman. She died. She wasn't necessarily divorced, she died, and then a few weeks later he married again to a woman called Mary. Now, Mary Shelley, some of you might recognise that name. She actually wrote Frankenstein, so she is an author in her own right. Percy Shelley was one of the Romantics, so let's look quickly at what the Romantics were. They're not these soppy, lovey-dovey group of people. That's not what it means. It's a literary movement where artists, authors, poets sort of have a deep appreciation for nature and dislike city life, the grind, the man, the establishment. They have this strong want and desire to be innocent, like children. They like to return to that state. They're part of an anti-enlightenment movement, so they're against this rigorous scientific method and cold, calculated way of thinking. They much prefer creativity and the beauty that surrounds that. They're also anti-aristocratic. They're kind of against the old elites and the government. They like to focus on a hero's passions and their inner struggle in writing and art. They also have an idea that creativity is more important than following rigid, strict rules, and they have an interest in the supernatural. So these are Romantics. Percy Shelley was part of the second group of Romantics. There's other examples include Keats, Lord Byron, Wordsworth, Coleridge, just to name a few. And some more context, looking at the history of when Ozymandias was written. He wrote it during the reign of King George III. Now, here's a picture of him here. I don't know if you've heard of him, but if any of you have seen Hamilton on Disney Plus recently, this is the chap. King George III ruled for a very long time, almost 60 years, about 59 years and a bit. And he was involved in a lot of conflicts, including going to war with America. The War for Independence, as we saw in Hamilton. Some other context though, Ozymandias is the Greek word, or the Greek name for Ramses II, an Egyptian ruler. Now, Ramses II was a very big military ruler. He defeated several enemies, including the Hittites, the Syrians, the Libyans, and the Nubians, and he expanded Egypt's borders. As I said, in Greek, he is known as Ozymandias. So there's a kind of correlation there. We've got King George, famous for conflict, and we've got Ozymandias, also famous for conflict. Now, let's also remember that the Romantics, including Shelley, kind of have this anti-government, anti-aristocratic idea. Percy Shelley was also a pacifist, so he didn't believe in war, which is obviously important. So here we have the poem. I've actually split it up into two parts here, an octave and a sestet, and you'll see why in a moment. So it reads, I met a traveller from an antique land who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert, near them on the sand, half sunk a shattered visage lies his throne, and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor, while those passions red, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the hand that fed. and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my words, ye mighty and despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. The lone and level sand stretched far away. Now, as I said, this is a sonnet, and I've split it up into two parts. Let's take a quick look at the themes. Well, it's Percy Shelley recounting the story he heard from a traveller from an antique land who has seen this statue in the desert, this broken statue. Now, it's likely that this statue came from a mighty ruler, and in the Sistet it even says, on the statue it's written that Ozymandias is a king of kings, mighty. Those who look at him will despair. But yet, it's broken and it's just shattered on the floor. We can see the shattered visage, which just means face, and the trunkless legs just in the desert with nothing around them. Around them is boundless and bare. So it's kind of about this statue from an ancient land of this king who was king of kings, super powerful, and so people should fear him. But today, it's broken, there's nothing there. So the theme is kind of about power, don't you think? And that power doesn't tend to last. In fact, one might also say that art outlives the powerful. So here we are, the big theme of the poem is power. And we'll look at some structure as well. So as I said, it is a sonnet. So let's look at a few other examples of sonnets. So one of the earliest, most famous examples is the Petrarchan sonnet. This is an Italian priest, I think in the 14th century, and he wrote sonnets about a woman called Laura. He really loved this woman called Laura. His sonnets are 14 lines. Again, they're split into two parts, octaves and sestets, and they follow an ABBA, ABBA, CDE, CDE rhyming pattern, and are also written in iambic pentameter, where in each foot, 2-syllable feet, the stress is on the second syllable, da-dum, 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 like that. The other famous chappie for sonnets is obviously Shakespeare. We have the Shakespearean sonnet about 100 years or so later. Again, 14 lines. His sonnets are 4 quatrains and a rhyming couplet. So 3 lots of 4 and then 2 at the end, and they go A, B, A, B, sorry, there's a mistake there, there's a big mistake. A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, G. And again, he's written in iambic pentameter. And I bring this up because I feel like the first 4 lines of Ozymandias kind of follow the Shakespearean structure. But there's also this split with the octave and the sestet that follows the Petrarchan sonnet. So it's kind of a mix between the two, but then the rest of it, the rhyme scheme is completely new. It follows neither Petrarch or Shakespeare. And I kind of feel that it's like Shelley going, yeah, you know what? You two had the power, but power dies, power ends. Much like Ozymandias, the powerful king who's now just a broken statue in the desert, power must end and it needs to make way for new power. And I feel like that Shelley's, developed the theme in his structure of the poem. Another thing I want to hit on is that sonnets are typically used for love. They're usually love poems, and perhaps it's also kind of saying something about the arrogance of those in power, that they love themselves. So there's a couple of interpretations for you there. Let's go back to the poem here. Now, first thing I want you to do is I want you to Google the title, Ozymandias. What does it mean in Greek? That it's broken down into several parts. What do they mean? Go and Google that and let me know why you think that might be important. Now, the next thing is this bit here, I met a traveller. Now, this is kind of Shelley's way of saying something about power. Remember, this is written at a time of King George, who was involved in a lot of conflicts, and we've got Percy Shelley, a pacifist, doesn't like fighting, doesn't like government and aristocratic ways. Is he trying to say something about King George and those in power? Probably. But if he says it directly, he can get in a lot of trouble. So what he tries to do is says, oh, this isn't my story. I met a traveller. I heard this from someone else. Don't shoot the messenger. I think that's really important here. So I met a traveller from an antique land who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand half sunk and shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. So, traveller in the desert, an antique land, sees this big thing, this two trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert, and they're half sunk, and on it a shattered visage, a broken face, visage means face, and it lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer cold command. Well, sunk, shattered, frown, wrinkled, and sneer, do they have positive connotations or negative connotations? These are the words that are used to describe this ruler. Again, could they be describing the powerful in Shelley's time? Probably. But do they have negative connotations, positive connotations? What tone is Shelley trying to create about the powerful through using these words? Also, look at the word, a shattered visage lies. A visage lies, a face lies. Now, the meaning in the poem is obviously this shattered, broken face. The face in this statue is lying in the sand. But a visage lies, a face lies, can have a double meaning. What other meaning could that mean? The face of the powerful lies. Think about that. Think about that double meaning. Also, we've got cold command. This is alliteration, that hard k sound. What do you think that hard k, that harsh sound, is saying about Ozymandias' nature and the nature of the powerful? Remember, it's a harsh sound. Another thing I noticed here was a lot of S sounds. We've got a lot of alliteration and consonants. We see this s sound repeated. Who said to vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor, while those passions read, which yet survive stamped on these lifeless things. What's the purpose of that sound? Could it be to reinforce the quietness of the desert, perhaps? Or could it be to remind us of the slyness and the malice of a snake? Obviously, the S often connotes a snake. And when we think of snakes, we think of like these sly, evil, malice things. Could that be saying something about the powerful? What do you think? I want to move over to this bit now. So we have this statue in the sand that's broken, the legs are standing up, the head's on the floor, and we see a shattered visage, the face, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. So we see this face, the artist who's made this statue has really been able to capture the kind of sinister nature, the cold command, the sneer, the frown of this ruler. So that's what it's saying. Tell that its sculpture well those passions read. So the sculptor was able to see the nature of this ruler, which yet survives. So the art has actually outlived the powerful. That's one of the minor themes in the story. So which has survived, stamped on these lifeless things. So the sculpture has stamped the true nature, the true personality of the ruler on the stone, and the hand that mocked them and the hand that fed. So the hand that mocked them is actually in reference to the sculptor. Mocked meaning to create something. If you mock something up, you create it. So the sculptor created this statue, but mocked has two meanings. Mocked also can mean making a joke at someone, taking the mickey out of them, teasing them. So this double meaning is also really important. Is the sculptor mocking the king Ozymandias? And why? Because he wants to say, this is the ruler he really was. And the words that are used to describe this statue are very negative. I also like the word stamped here. Could that possibly have a double meaning? Is this, the sculptor stamped the image on the statue? did the ruler stamp on his the people he ruled? Possibly. And then we move on to the last bit, the sestet. And on the pedestal these words appear: my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty and despair. So we have this statue, and on it is written, I'm Ozymandias, I am the King of Kings. That's a pretty bold statement. Look at my works, look at everything I've done, look at my big old statue and everything I've done. Ye mighty, it's so powerful. Despair at my greatness. That's some good juxtaposition there, because this King of Kings, this mighty, the thing that we're supposed to despair over, is actually nothing. Nothing remains. It's just decay, a colossal wreck, boundless and bare. So we have a nice juxtaposition here, which develops the theme. We've got this statue, which of this powerful person, which is broken now. The powerful is not remembered. In its place is a statue, and around it is just desert, bare, barren, and it's just a wreck there. Also, we've got some alliteration, boundless and bare, which helps to emphasize the emptiness. And then we finish, the lone and level sands stretch far away. So nothing's there. It just reminds us that there's this powerful person, nothing is left in its place except nature. Nature is the powerful, not the person, but nature. And that the powerful didn't outlive anything. It didn't last. It's just a crumpled up mess in the desert. There's the poem. There's my interpretation. I hope you could take something away. Thank you for watching.